Hi, and welcome to today's lecture. My name is Matty, and I'm a TA, assisting Dave with his course. And today I'm going to be talking to you about GUI programming in Haskell. So first of all, what is a GUI? Well, if you use a computer, you've already used a GUI, right? A GUI stands for a graphical user interface, and it's what you're used to, like this file explorer. Like this is just a standard explorer in Windows, and it kind of lays out the data, the structure of my file system, and then I have a mouse, and then I can click things, and it changes things, right? And you have some menus, you have some scroll wheels, and this is called a graphical user interface, right? Because it's like a graphical representation of a data, as opposed to a command line interface, where you only interact with things through arguments, right? So how do we create these GUIs? Well, they're created by you kind of define a layout. You say, okay, this should be on the left side, this should be in the middle, and this should be on the right. And then take the things and lay them out in a list. And there's many multiple ways of doing this, right? You can either use a standard interface, like from your operating system, and then you kind of draw directly on some sort of canvas, and you say, I want to draw this icon here, I want to draw this text here. And then you have to somehow define how that layout looks. You have to describe the layout. And this can be done programmatically. But how does it work? So in general, when we write GUIs, we use something called event-based programming, right? What is that? Well, it means that this here picture is just going to be static until something happens, right? Such as, if I move my mouse, that is an event, right? And then if that mouse hovers over a folder, then that folder gets highlighted. And then if I click the mouse, then that sends some command to the GUI, right? But the idea is, as long as there's nothing happening, there's no events and nothing will happen, right? So, but let's get back to, how do we describe the layout? Well, I'm sure you're all familiar with HTML, right? You've used web pages. And web pages are defined using a layout. So here we have an example of a web page. Here we have an example of an even simpler web page. And if you open the console, which you can do on most operating systems, or like most browsers, you can see that this is the code for this particular web page. And then it has all these parts, right? And the idea here is that we describe how the layout should be, and then your web browser has some sort of rendering engine that renders the description here into what we see here. But then we also want to be able to interact with it. We want to be able to do things in the GUI, right? So this is just a simple web page, right? It just has some links that I can click, right? If I click here, for instance, it will open up a new web page. But usually we want some functionality, right? So let's look at a slightly more complex web page. This is a web page that's just an app, right? And if you look at the code here, it's just it's just a description of an entire web page. And then, we can log into it, and then we fill something, we click the login button. The login button sends some commands to a server. And this is all done using JavaScript, which is like a programming language that you can run on the web, right? So we push login, and here you can see that, okay, we logged in and we made something happen, right? But we're still on the same page. And what is the benefit of using HTML versus something else for GUI programming? Well, it's kind of like a very clean description of the layout, but also we get the benefit of we can use it for both like browsers on computers or for phones. So the web page you see here, I can open that on my phone, right? And you can see it as a web app there. So we only have to define the layout once. And then, yes, we have to do it in a particular manner so that it works for both. But then you get the same thing on the computer and on the phone. So using HTML to describe GUIs is pretty great because we delegate kind of the rendering of the page and the actual drawing of all the symbols to some rendering engine, which is built into the browser. So here we have the Chrome browser doing it, but here we have the browser on my phone doing it, right? And the phone knows how the phone looks like, and the browser knows what the browser window looks like. So we get kind of the best of both worlds.